What up? Welcome back to another episode of the Run Peer Sports Swing for the Fences show here on Monday afternoon, talking a little bit of a smaller slate on this Monday, 6 games on both DraftKings and FanDuel. We'll be breaking it down, of course, on Draft Sheet, joined by Mr. JT Hayes. JT, how was your weekend? Did you watch the Tom Brady roast? More about roasting later, by the way. We've got a ticket to give away today, which will be a good time. Well, let's more people trickle in before we announce that. But how you doing on this Monday afternoon, JT?
I'm doing good. Good weekend. It was a little rainy down here in Atlanta, so we were supposed to have our second game of the season, but it got rained out, which I wasn't upset about, DC, because I'm nursing a calf injury, so got about another 2 weeks before I get out there. So it was good news, and then just a nice weekend. I'm not traveling this week for the first time in 3 months. So I'm pretty happy about that. And we have congrats in order. Congrats to our guy, the man. Once again, shipping the high dollar MLB tournament, this time on a Sunday, which are notoriously painful slates for $100K. And as you mentioned, he's going to give back to the community today a $121 ticket. And in a couple of minutes, we're going to tell you what you have to do. It does involve some creativity, but we'll get there here in a couple of minutes, DC. As you mentioned, a 6-game slate, smaller slate, Monday night. Interesting little slate, some very condensed, I think, popular options at both pitcher and offense. So I know we're going to try and find some ways to get a little bit different here. And I have a couple of things that I think people are going to be shocked at when I start talking about the slate, and I'm sure that you do as well. I saw that you were rewarded for your faith in the Nationals yesterday. How have you been?
Yeah, I was close. Big congrats to the man with the 100K. I think I finished 12th or something in that contest. I did play 4 lineups in that. I believe that was the 7-7-7 that the man took down, cashed 3 of the 4. And you're reminded on days like that how difficult it can be to get to the top of a tournament. 1 or 2 swings of the bat can swing all of the money. So didn't quite get there, but obviously very happy to see the man get there, get the big win. And of course, we appreciate, and I'm sure all you do as well, the ticket giveaway, giving back to the community. One thing that I love the most about the RPS community is just, it is truly, a community, and people do give back when they get the big scores. Of course, no one's obligated to do so. No one asked them to do that, but giving back to the people, you do love to see it. We'll announce that in, like you said, couple minutes here, and we'll just say we're glad Kevin Fallick's not in charge of the giveaway, and maybe he's got to pay the price for the worst ticket giveaway of all time last week when I did the show with Fallick. But had to do the Wolves game tonight, JT. Wolves and Nuggets, so pretty excited for that. Little worried Rudy Gobert, now questionable, might miss that game. It sounds like his girlfriend had a baby, so I'm hoping he'll make it back. But excited for the game. I do want to ask you, because my girlfriend wanted to go to one of these Wolves Nuggets games, and I was of the opinion that it's not actually as fun to go to an NBA playoff game. I would kind of say any playoff game when you're rooting against the home team, right? Part of the fun, in my opinion, is like the camaraderie and the crowd energy. And if you're going opposite of everybody there, or 95% of the people there, to me it kind of takes away from it. But I did get a pretty good deal on some good tickets, so I did end up getting the tickets anyway. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I think people have differing opinions, but in my opinion, I would much rather be rooting with the crowd on a big NBA playoff game like this one. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen. First and foremost, there are certain stadiums in this country where it's completely inadvisable to be rooting outwardly for the other team. I don't think Denver is quite that way because they win so much at home. They've got such a huge.
I'll cut you off there because I've been to 1 or 2 Broncos games, but the last one I was at was the one where Patrick Mahomes completed the left-handed pass. This was probably, 3 or 4 years ago at this point. And I ended up being forcibly removed from that game. I was given the choice to either leave the stadium on my own 2 feet or go to the jail cell. So I did exit But all I was doing was cheering on the Chiefs. Now, yes, I had had a few drinks and perhaps was cheering rather obnoxiously, but I mean, but that kind of has colored my my opinion, and so we're gonna try to ease into this game a little bit. I don't want to be jumping up and screaming in people's faces every time Ant throws one down on Jokic in the paint.
Did you have a lady friend with you at that Broncos game?
I did, and that was the beginning of the end for our relationship.
Right. So I'm going to guess I've seen examples of the more mature DC in recent years. I'm going to guess that's the DC that's going to make his way out to the Nuggets Wolves game with his lady, and I'm going to guess that it's going to go fine. I'm going to guess that it's going to go fine.
I think Nuggets fans, even though this playoff game that wasn't, I think the Broncos fans are much more unforgiving of rooting against their team than perhaps the Nuggets fans are.
They're more in the mold of like the fan base takes on the role of their players, right? So when you think Broncos fans, you think Bill Romanowski, not someone you really want to trifle with or root against. But when you think about Nikola Jokic, I mean, he doesn't care. Root for the other team. It's fine. It's no big deal. And I think the fans feel the same way. So I think you're going to be all right tonight, DC.
We'll see. We'll have a trip report tomorrow. Well, assuming I'm at home and unless things go very, very poorly, we will have a trip report on the Broncos and Nuggets game tomorrow. Hopefully I don't end up sitting next to the Jokic brothers. That could be a problem.
Yeah.
I would be keeping my mouth shut if that does, in fact, turn out to be the case. JT, I think we've got enough people in here now, almost 200 watching. Go ahead, talk about the giveaway courtesy of the man that we're going to do the 121 ticket giveaway during the show.
Yeah, courtesy of the man with the six-figure takedown yesterday. Got to address some people in the chat first. Jake Swales, nobody was cheated. You fucked that up on your own. Squid, stop complaining. Bean Air, I'm a huge New York Liberty fan. Very, very sexy ladies. But the man is giving away a 121 ticket here for tonight's slate. And as you alluded to, DC, a hugely popular roast last night on Netflix, I think it was, Tom Brady. And listen, we have our own beloved coordinator here, our own beloved Kevin Fallick. And one of the requirements of the man to give away this ticket was that K. Fallick get roasted and not Mangone. Last time we roasted Mangone, but it's Kevin's turn tonight. So if Kevin was roasted a la the Tom Brady Netflix roast last night, what would be the most humorous thing that people would say at that roast? Not hurtful, not like the joke about massages or breakups or all things like that. But what would be the funniest roast of Kevin? The funniest one, the one that makes us stop what we're doing and laugh. It's got to be in the live show chat. That's the other requirement by the man. In the live show chat, which means you have to be a member. One that makes us stop what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and give that ticket to that winner. DC, I'm excited to see what the people come up with this in this one.
Yeah, I was telling you beforehand, I'm going to exclude myself from actually being able to win the ticket. I'm not going to award myself the ticket.
Right.
But I may perhaps involve myself in the roast. No ticket for me, but I do think I have some good Fallick roasts. So with that,
he's in there. He's got some ideas. This is going to be exciting. I'm pulling up how far is too far. Bean Air, if I were you, I would self-exclude right now. I would just be like, this isn't the contest for you. You're like I said, K. Fallick is beloved, not hated, beloved. So your membership could be in question. Yeah, could be like if anyone else asked, how far is too far, I'd say, go for it. No, you're not going to cross the line. If Bean Air has to ask how far is too far. Yeah. Now we're getting into some questionable territory. So, we will see the man. Yeah, he's in the live show chat right now. He says, "Winner, DM your PayPal. He'll get you that ticket." And the 121 ticket I gave away last week to P. Lally, he did get the min cash with that one. So not exactly what I was looking for, but still good. I heard that was a terrible contest. I didn't get a chance to tune in, but people are already talking about how it left them sort of, not feeling great.
Yeah. Did you know what it was?
No, tell me about it.
Well, it was Fallick's idea, of course.
Okay.
And his idea was that Mangone was going to be so flustered just by being tagged. It was a requirement that you couldn't actually roast Mangone. You just had to tag him, nothing else but that, in the live show chat. And then I picked a number, and then whoever, in the order of tagging Mangone won. Funny part was Mangone was on the show the next day. I asked him, did Fallick's plan work? Did you get flustered by all these people tagging you and you didn't know why? He said, no, I've muted the Discord notification. So I didn't even see that until the next day. The plan did not work for K Fallick. Most for that.
So how did B. Lally win if there were no criteria? Just a random, you picked his name?
Yeah, it was just like in order of the whoever, like 70 people tagged Mangone, and then I picked number 33, and that was the winning ticket. So
that sounds exhilarating. I have to be honest. I'm sorry I missed it.
As I said Friday, probably the worst ticket giveaway of all time. And at least here on my shows, JT, shows that I'm hosting, Fallick has been banned from being in charge of ticket giveaways from here on out. With that, let's get into these games. San Diego, Chicago, Cubs are up first. I will first say we did see were 3 games that were scheduled to start at this first lock time of 7:40 Eastern time. It will now start 30 minutes earlier, so the normal start time, but it was scheduled to start 30 minutes later. But Milwaukee and Kansas City, due to looks like some potential storms coming into Kansas City later tonight, they did move up their game time 30 minutes. I don't think DraftKings, I'm updating it now. Okay, they did move it up. So yeah, 7:10 Eastern time, Milwaukee and Kansas City. So actually, we'll start with that game. We'll start with KC Milwaukee since it is the first game on the slate now. Cole Reagan's pitching for the Royals against Bryce Wilson. Looks like some pretty prime hitting conditions in Kansas City. 75 degrees, humid, winds blowing out to left field. And so I'm a little torn on this one, JT, because I do have Cole Reagan's as my SP1 on this slate. But this is one of those slates, and, it is a 6-gamer. I think it's pretty wide open, and I don't mind as, a contrarian option. Some of these Brewers power bats, given the conditions, it does grade out pretty well for right-handed power bats in Kansas City tonight. So guys like Contreras, Hoskins, Adames, even Gary Sanchez, 3,100 at catcher, I do think make for pretty good one-offs, trying to pick off a home run or 2 perhaps against Reagan's. That said, I do think Reagan's has the most upside of any pitcher on the slate. I think it's close between him and Luis Castillo. And Reagan's, relatively cheap, I think, at 8,800 for his talent level. I know he had a couple, or just the one bump in the road, really, against Baltimore. Was dominant last time out against Toronto, 9 strikeouts over 6 2/3. Big believer in his, talent level, both right now and going forward. So he is my SP1 today. Not playing as many teams as I normally do just because I'll be out of the house early. Don't want to have to worry about editing lineups and all that stuff. But I would have a decent amount of, especially one-offs or maybe mini stacks of the Brewers if I was playing more lineups. No real interest in Bryce Wilson for me. Just not a believer in his. He has been, I would say, a little bit better than he normally is. I mean, yeah, ERA and WHIP still looking pretty good, but yeah, I don't know if I'm getting there at 6,300. What about you, JT? Royals and Brewers to kick us off here.
Yeah, so I'll start with Bryce Wilson because that's easy. He's coming off maybe the best game, certainly of the season, maybe one of his best games of his career last time out, and I'm not a believer that that's going to continue. So I was getting a lot of Kansas City when I was running the projections. There's some weather here as well. Projections in terms of weather show that it's going to be the 7th inning and beyond. So certainly enough damage can happen here by these Royal bats against Bryce Wilson before you get to that point. I like Cole Reagan's a lot as a pitcher. This Milwaukee team started off very hot, but it's been kind of bumpy lately for them. Lots of swing and miss here. Guys that had started off pretty well are not hitting the ball nearly as well. Rhys Hoskins has cooled off. Willie Adames has had a couple of big games lately, but really that bottom half of that order is susceptible to swing and miss. So I like Reagan's here. I couldn't fault you for taking some shots here on the Brewers' power bats, as you mentioned, given that win. But Reagan's has been very, very good. And the strikeout percentage in particular, very, very good. So I lean on him, on his side here, I should say, if evaluating the two. So Reagan's I'm definitely going to have as one of my top 3 or 4 highest owned pitchers. And in multi-entry, look, the Brewers' stacks are going to be in there, but they're not anywhere near the top 3 or 4 teams that I'm going to have on this slate.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's get to the next game, San Diego and the Chicago Cubs. Good pitching weather here, 60 degrees, winds blowing in. In Chicago, we're getting some pretty funny entrance already into the K-Falc roast contest. Justin Steele, who was, I think, like kind of underrated last year, had an awesome season for the Cubs. I think it kind of flew under the radar to some extent. I don't think people consider him to be in the upper echelon of pitchers. But if you just look at last year's results, he certainly was. Had a really good start to the year, 4 2/3 innings against Texas, 6 strikeouts. And then hurt his hamstring, I believe, fielding a bunt or an infield hit. He's back today, missed just over a month, made just one rehab start where I believe he threw, what did he throw? 60-some pitches, I believe, 63 pitches. So he should be, I think, around 70 to 75 in this one would be my guess on Justin Steele. I don't think I'm paying the $9K price tag for him, even on this small slate, just not a high enough pitch count. Pretty low strikeout matchup against him as well. So not really on Steele here. Darvish, in my opinion, is more on play, but I'm just not a huge believer in Darvish at the moment. Hasn't eclipsed 20 fantasy points in any game so far this year. Again, a decent matchup, good pitching conditions. So I have no problem with Darvish, but I do have him at least a tier below guys like Reagan's and Castillo myself. And then on a normal slate, I really wouldn't be very interested in either of these offenses. On a 6-gamer, it's kind of hard to write off anybody. I think I prefer the Cubs side, specifically the speed, which Cubs have a decent amount of it. You can really run on you, Darvish. That would be something I'd be looking to attack tonight. What about you, JT? Cubs and Padres here.
Yeah, like you, at first glance, I didn't have a ton of interest in this game. Darvish has been serviceable so far this season, had a decent start against the Reds last time out. He's cheap enough. But the strikeout prop for either of these guys isn't very good. It doesn't seem like the projections believe that these guys have a great chance of being putting up a ceiling performance here. I, like you, prefer the Cubs side of this game. I'm going to be lower on the pitchers here. I don't know that I'm going to completely write off Justin Steele. I think I'm going to see. I think I was getting like 2 or 3% of him when I was running 150 sets. And as volatile, I'll say this, DC, as volatile, and we need look no further than yesterday's slate in terms of the volatility of the popular pitching plays. When you see both Freddie Peralta and Joe Ryan score fewer than 15 fantasy points, if Justin Steele is on and can go 4 1/3, 4 2/3 innings, is that enough to get in the winner of the chalk pitcher's bust? And I don't know that it is at 9K. So I don't know that I'm out on him, but if I do have shares of him, it won't be very many. I don't really like picking on this Cubs team. They have a lot of weapons in terms of guys that put the ball in play. We saw this yesterday against Freddie Peralta. So whatever use field percentage right now is about 20%. And I think I'll come in either right at that or a little bit under that. As far as the Padres, big breakout weekend for them. Of course, it'll help when you get to face Arizona's bullpen and some of the guys that they're throwing out there right now due to some of their pitching injuries. So I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing for the Padres. I'm a little bit lower on them here in this spot.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like I said, I do think the slate is pretty wide open. Honestly, there's really no team that I would be totally shocked if they ended up on the winner. One of the problems with doing these contests is it's hard to pay attention to what you're saying because I'm looking at the the roast, they're too funny. So it is a drawback, but yeah, good stuff. Obviously in the live show chat there.
I will say Veritas, the problem I have with this is K-Falik doesn't have all that many losing screenshots. So, I mean, it's not like there's a lot to choose from. So I have to say it's humorous, but the reality is there just aren't so many. So I don't know if that one's going to get near the top, TC.
Yeah, he did submit two of them. The two comments above that one, I got a good laugh out of the one just above that, which might be my front runner so far. But we got plenty of time on the show to continue the Phallic roast as we go through these games. We just did Milwaukee and Kansas City and Chicago and San Diego. Up next is Minnesota and the Seattle Mariners. This one in Minneapolis. We did see the Twins 12-game winning streak. I believe it was 12 games. Snapped yesterday. I've got another tough task tonight against Luis Castillo, who kind of did his traditionally slow start thing. His first really 3 outings were pretty pedestrian. I see you're laughing. I'll check after I introduce this game. But Castillo's really turned it on over the last 5 or so starts, including 2 30-plus pointers and 2 of the last 3 for Castillo. This Twins team obviously has been better recently, so it's not maybe the matchup that we were looking for, but Castillo here has to be, in my opinion, in play. I do have him a little bit behind Reagan's. I do think Castillo is probably the safer play. I think Reagan's has more upside, but I think it's close between the two. I think you compare the two fairly easily and probably a decent strategy tonight. And then Woods Richardson, results-wise, he's been pretty good. I'm personally not really a believer in Woods Richardson. He's not missing many bats, generating very few swings and misses. He's faced the White Sox twice and the Tigers once, so he's faced, I mean, frankly, about as easy of schedule as one could have. And has, like I said, I mean, he's been serviceable. I think there's some big regression coming for Castillo, so I don't love this Mariners lineup in general and the winds blowing in at Target Field. I will say the winds matter less at Target Field than they do in most stadiums, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. But I do like the Mariners here as a contrarian stack. That said, 7K Woods Richardson against the strikeout-prone Mariners team, I think they're in play as well. Your thoughts, JT, Mariners and Twins?
Yeah, I will just start with saying, one, K. Reed is having a good week here, both with how well his Phillies are playing, and then this was an all-time classic. Don't know where he found it. I will say that alligator looks like it's about to run off with a nipple. So that is pretty amazing. So Castillo coming in here at 41% ownership, and he's been great. 5 awesome starts in a row, DC. We know that Castillo isn't that consistent, right? We know that the level of consistency is going to drop off here. So Castillo in the pool, I think he's certainly pitched very well. We do prefer him normally at home at whatever they call their stadium now in Seattle. But I can see where the Twins maybe have a little bit of success, not enough for me to go crazy on them, but still think he's in a good spot here. And then I'm with you on Simeon Woods Richardson. He's only 7K, and the K prop for him is actually 4.5 juice to the over. I do think that as poorly as the Seattle team has played to start the season out, is there a chance here, DC, they come off a big series against the Astros where they played pretty well? Is it an opportunity for a letdown here, and maybe Simeon Woods Richardson can have a good outing? It's possible. It's possible. Seattle chalk makes me a little bit nervous here. So a little bit lower on this game overall, I think, than maybe some other people would be, at least here on this slate. So that's at least my thoughts there.
Yeah, it looks like Seattle's going to get some ownership. I think rightfully so. I do think, like I said, the regression's coming for Woods Richardson at some point here. And, I'll take some shots on Seattle. Minnesota bullpen, very, very good. They have used most of their good guys quite a bit recently. So perhaps if Seattle can get off to a big start and Castillo pitching well, maybe you'll get not the greatest pitchers coming out of the Minnesota pen. But if it's close late, this Twins team, very, very tough to score on with some of the elite arms they've got in their bullpen. Where did you rank Castillo against Reagans? I assume you're in on Castillo. I missed that part.
I'm in on Castillo. I mean, the 41% ownership, at least that's what I'm seeing projected. I think he comes in a little bit higher than that, DC.
Yeah.
I just think his game logs, people that look at his game logs are going to be like, oh my God, this guy's a Cy Young. But you expect at some point he's going to have a down performance, right? Even if it's just 15. Even if it's 15, the long ball gets him. And I think, I think the Twins can get to him here a little bit. So definitely in the pool. I'm definitely playing a bunch of him. I don't know if I'm going to approach that 40% mark for Luis Castillo.
All right, let's get to New York and St. Louis. This one will be hosted by the Cardinals. Kyle Gibson on the hill for the Cardinals. I feel like he's been the same guy for the entirety of our DFS careers for the last decade. Just like a kind of a truly league average arm. He's been Kyle Gibson this season. He's been pretty decent actually, honestly, through the last 3 starts or so. He'll go against Sean Manaea, who he's been okay as well. Again, I'm not really a believer in either of these pitchers. Again, on a 6-game slate where things are tight. Like I said, I do think I wouldn't be shocked to see just about anything appear on the winners tonight. I have less interest, certainly, in these pitchers than I do the offenses. Kind of like the Mets here. I don't think we have that lineup yet, but assuming it's as predicted, there it is. I do like them a little bit, specifically that top 3 or 4. No Pete Alonso in the lineup. He's been something pretty bad, but that does make them a little bit cheaper if you do want to go that direction. So I do like the Mets a little bit. I think you could make a case for the Cardinals as well. That right-handed power against Sean Manaea can play pretty well in good hitting conditions, or at least relatively so, in St. Louis. So I'm more in on the bats here, but where do you stand, JT, on Cardinals and Mets?
Yeah, so Gibson projects, as he always does, sort of mediocre, but after 2 good games, I like the Mets here coming off of a sweep in Tampa Bay. I think this is an opportunity, especially when you consider, DC, that the St. Louis bullpen is pretty beat up right now after a surprisingly tough series against the White Sox. So I like the Mets here. Not a huge fan of the St. Louis Cardinals. I actually am going to have some Sean Manaea in my pool, projecting for 6% ownership. Obviously, Garrett Crochet is a much better quality pitcher. Not a much better, but a better quality pitcher than what I think Manaea is here with the walks, the control that Manaea has struggled with again this season. But I'll take some chances on Manaea working through this lineup and having some success here tonight, maybe beating his projection at very low ownership. So I'm in for maybe 15% Sean Manaea, and I do like the Mets here, potentially as one of my primary stacks on the slate.
Yeah. Alex says Jose Fermin batting leadoff. Yeah, he's 2,100, and I'll be honest, I don't really know that much about him, or I didn't coming into the year. He's been really impressive at AAA this year. He's an older prospect, but just a 4% strikeout rate. AAA's got 4 home runs, 5 steals, 186 WRC plus. So tearing it up in AAA so far. Obviously, that doesn't always translate to the big leagues, but at 2,100 with the platoon advantage, hitting leadoff for a reason, at least to some extent, where the Cardinals obviously have some faith in him. So I do think Jose Fermin, I'm sure he'll be very popular at that price point, but I think rightfully so, given the good matchup, what he's been doing at the minor league level so far, and obviously, the price and matchup and all that stuff. So Jose Fermin there. Don't overlook him if you do need some value. If you are trying to pay for, the Reagans-Castillo combination, which feels pretty good to me, honestly, given the slate, I do think Fermin makes some sense. And then, of course, those right-handed power bats, Contreras, Goldschmidt, Arenado. Carlson swings a better bat from the right side. He's 2,400. And, the more I kind of look at this game, I do kind of like the bats on both sides of it. Yeah, some good stuff in the chat with the K Falgros. Gonna be tough, JT, to narrow it down to one, but we'll do our best to pick a winner, of course, before we get off of the show here. That's 4 of the 6 games. We'll do, of course, the last two. We will pick the $121 ticket winner courtesy of the Mans. And then we'll do, of course, stacks, pitchers, home run calls, all of that good stuff. Before we do, we got over 300 watching right now. Hit the like button. It does help us out. Helps us bring you guys this free content, these free shows, pretty much every day here on the YouTube channel. And then if you do want to join us over at Run Pure Sports, get those Kevin Fowler cores into your lineups. And use promo code DC15 for 15% off your first weekly or monthly payment. All right, let's get to the final two games on the slate. First one we'll talk about is Texas and Oakland, two frankly pretty mediocre lefties on the hill. Alex Wood pitching for the A's, Andrew Heaney for the Rangers, two pitchers who, we're generally targeting bats against. With Heaney, I think it's the power that you want to go with. Was he giving up 5 or 6 home runs already on the year? Typically gives up a lot of power to opposing righties. And then Alex Wood, I kind of think he's just kind of past it at this point, JT. He obviously has been a pretty good pitcher in the past, but it's been a while. And this year he's giving up just under 2 base runners per innings pitched. So guys all over the base paths against Alex Wood. He doesn't miss many bats anymore. And those are the guys that I really love stacking against. So this Rangers team is pretty high on my list. They are expensive, but I think could very well prove worth it and maybe go a little bit under the radar, given the modest team total. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with the relatively tough hitting environment in Oakland. But I like this Rangers team. I do think that Andrew Heaney is in play, given the matchup and the price tag at 6,600 against the A's. He can be a strikeout guy when he's on his game. Certainly, the matchup is there for him to do it in this matchup. So I don't mind Heaney. No real interest in Alex Wood for me. Your thoughts, JT, on Rangers and the Oakland A's?
Yeah, so this game, I will say, gives me sort of, and again, it's in hindsight, but sort of vibes of that Cleveland-Los Angeles game yesterday, where everybody got really excited to play both sides of that game offensively because the pitchers are guys who've given up a lot of hard contact, and we think that they're not great pitchers. And then the reality is they're just too cheap, right? I mean, Heaney here at 6,600, you get excited given how well the A's have been playing and what they're hitting and some of the power in that offense. And then you remember this is the Oakland Coliseum at night, and it's sort of like the perfect park for Andrew Heaney to have success in, right? So yeah. I can see where he does well. It's harder, of course, to see Alex Wood succeeding, but then you look and you say, well, he's 5,500. He had some success against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, and his K prop is 4.5. So is it a spot where I want to play a lot of either one of these pitchers, especially when you talk about Heaney cresting perhaps 30% ownership? No, but then again, I don't feel great about the pitchers that we've talked about so far because of the spots that they're in, whether it be the weather in Kansas City or the fact that Luis Castillo is kind of due for one of those mediocre games. So both pitchers remain in the pool. I'm not particularly high on this game offensively. I'll definitely have shares of both. Wouldn't be surprised if a cheap A stack is in the winner. Wouldn't be surprised if a couple of Rangers bats are in the winner. But overall, it's a situation where it seems like both of these pitchers are just a little bit too cheap and maybe primed here to have some success given the ballpark and the weather and the atmosphere in Oakland.
Yeah. The thing I like about the Rangers side of it, just like I mentioned, just all the base runners given up by Alex Wood. So while it is going to be a tough park, obviously, for home runs, I think especially on a 6-game slate, right, a smaller slate, you might not need, more than 1 or 2 home runs or, maybe even 0 out of your stack to get there in the end. If it is a low scoring slate, like it, frankly, is kind of predicted to be for the most part. Most of the teams have really low totals. I mean, the Dodgers are sitting at like 5.5, 6, but beyond that, the next highest is the Royals at 4.5. And most of the teams, frankly, are under 4 in terms of projected runs. So it might not take a whole lot. We could see a low-scoring slate, and obviously the fewer games, the fewer teams on the slate, the more likely it is that there is no one team that goes absolutely crazy. Yeah, Uncle T, bring back the live ball, please. 100% with you on that, but I won't go on another rant about that. No need today to do it. And I just think the Rangers are going to have guys on the bases against Wood. One reason the Rangers team total is low is because of that back end of the Oakland pen. Urseg and Mason Miller have been absolutely lights out. So if the Rangers don't do much against Alex Wood, it's going to be hard to get it done late in the game. But frankly, if those guys are in the game, you probably weren't getting home with the Rangers stack anyway. So I'm not as concerned about that as I think maybe the team total would suggest. So I do like the Rangers here. I think the A's power bats make some sense against Heaney, but I think you can play Andrew Heaney as well. Alex Wood, not super in play for me at least. Last game of the night here. It is the game with the highest overall total, sitting at 8.5, and especially the individual highest total. Dodgers, like I said, sitting between 5.5 and 6 projected runs, which really stands out on this slate given the relatively low team totals in general. The market, JT, not buying into the start of the season for Roddery Munoz, who, at least results-wise, has pitched pretty damn well in his first 2 starts here. 5 and 6 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts in each of those games against the Cubs and the Rockies. His minor league track record suggests he is due for some major regression. He really hasn't been good. An older prospect, frankly, not much of a prospect. I think he's interesting. I tend to kind of side with the market, obviously going up against. I think it's safe to say the current best offense in baseball, at least at the moment, with how they're swinging the bats in the LA Dodgers. I keep talking about Ohtani on the show. I know everybody knows how good he is, but I keep saying that, man, this guy is just locked in. Even when you compare him to some other studs around the league, had that monster game yesterday against the Braves. Frankly, I think he is the best overall bat on this slate. And then Walker Buehler making his debut here. I believe he missed I believe the entirety of 2023. The plan was for him to kind of come back late last season and then maybe pitch in the playoffs, but he just wasn't getting the job done. They kind of shut that down. And I think he was supposed to be up here pitching earlier than May 6th. But again, it's been a struggle for him in the minor leagues. 4 ERA, 1.6 whip over 21 innings. I don't think the Walker Buehler that we kind of have been used to seeing over the years is going to be the one that we see early on here for the Dodgers. I kind of think he's just been pitching down there for so long that it's kind of like, all right, we got to kind of see what you got here at the big league level. I'm not actually expecting it to go that well for Walker Buehler, even in this great matchup against Miami. They do have the lowest team total on the slate, so I do think we'll get a fair bit of ownership on Walker Buehler. I do think if he pitches well, he can go fairly deep into this game. I just have my question marks about if he's going to be able to do so. Curious your thoughts on Walker Buehler. And then obviously the Dodgers, I think it would be hard to make a case for them as not the top stack on this slate. Just a question of if you can fit him in with the pricing. And if you want to eat, obviously, that's everybody kind of wants to do that on the slate, I assume, is get in those Dodger bats. So your thoughts here, Miami and LA.
I'll start with Walker Buehler here because there's a couple of things here, right? The market is evaluating him based on the Miami Marlins, who have been very, very bad, especially against very good pitching, which, like you said, is what people expect out of Walker Buehler. But there's another component here that is maybe more concerning about Walker Buehler, and it's the Dodgers, and it's how they manage pitchers and how long Walker Buehler has been out. I think he would have to be nearly pristine here to get enough of length, 5, maybe 6 innings. I think the ceiling here, DC, And it would be an outlier for him to get 6 innings. That's my concern with Buehler here. And when you talk about the rust, maybe somewhat diminished by the fact that he's pitching against the Miami Marlins. So I think just based on the slate, we only have 12 choices, and we've eliminated a few of those choices in terms of pitchers. So I think he stays in the pool here, but definitely not at the numbers that are going to be coming out from the Opto based on his projection, because his projection, we have a very good projection on him. He's got a good projection around the industry because of this matchup. Again, they're playing in Southern California at night. So I don't know what the Dodgers and Dave Roberts have in mind for him. I'm going to be looking for that information as soon as we get off here to see if they've got or they've announced some type of pitch count on him. But definitely not one of my favorite spots here. And then you mentioned the Dodgers, and the issue is they're very expensive. And so what do they have to do to pay off? Of course, if they're the only team that scores a bunch of runs on this slate, then they're definitely going to be in the winner. And they do have that Miami bullpen, which they gave up 20 runs against the Oakland A's on Saturday. So the bullpen is pretty cooked here for Miami. If Munoz regresses, as most people, as nature expects, he's going to regress at some point. Pitched against the Cubs, and he did well. And then against the Rockies, who have really not hit up anybody so far, especially away from Coors Field. Definitely the best talent he's faced to date in the major leagues. They're going to be patient at the plate, and they're likely going to put up a bunch of runs. So find it hard to get away from Dodgers stacks here. I mean, almost no interest here in the Miami Marlins, because even if Walker isn't quite as sharp, you do have a very talented bullpen to handle the Marlins after Walker Buehler pitches.
Yeah, I kind of like the first 5 over in this game, just because again, not a huge believer in Buehler. Obviously, the Dodgers bullpen wouldn't come in super into play there. And then, Munoz, not a huge believer in him. I think I have maybe more interest in Miami as a leverage stack than JT does. Again, you get into the bullpen, not ideal. They did lose their closer, Evan Phillips, which, lessens the depth there a little bit. Jake Swales, 85 pitches, my guess for Buehler. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Buehler in the minor leagues, last 3 starts, 68, 86, and 75 pitches. So 80, 85 pitches sounds about right for Buehler. I don't think it's really realistic to expect any more than that. Even if he's pitching well, I bet 85 is about as far as they would push him in this one. That's all 6 games. Let's do some of that fun stuff. We'll pick a winner for the contest. JT, I don't know if you have one picked out. I think we're kind of on some of the funny ones. Few of you crossing the line in chat, I suppose, to be somewhat expected. We'll pick a winner for that. We'll think about that as we go through. Let's do favorite overall stacks and favorite contrarian stacks. I mean, it's got to be the Dodgers for me as favorite overall stack. It's kind of hard to get away from them. Best offense in baseball. And I think still, even though he started well, maybe the best matchup of any team as well. Pretty good hitting conditions in LA. So I do like the Dodgers. Contrarian stack, I'm going to go with the Mariners. I'm not sure how contrarian they'll be, but it's a 6-game slate. Yeah, they're not going to be contrarian, are they?
No, that's all right.
Yeah. The Rangers will be lower owned, I guess. I mean, there's only so many teams to choose from. Looking at the ownership now. Yeah, it does look like the Rangers will be lower owned against Alex Wood. So I'll go with that. I'll go Dodgers favorite stack and the Rangers as my contrarian. What about you, JT? Favorite stack, favorite contrarian stack?
Yeah, it is tough when there's condensed ownership, right? So I'm going to go with, like I said, it's just the numbers, the matchup. Very hard to get away from the Dodgers here. So I'm going to go the Dodgers. They're going to be the most popular stack. And then for a leverage stack, I like the Mets here. Colorado's bullpen used some of their better pieces in that series, and maybe some guys that are better in their bullpen maybe down for this game. So I think the Mets are going to be one of my higher owned stacks as a leverage spot.
All right. We will go with most important pitcher on the slate. For me, it's Reagans. He's the guy I'm rolling with. I do have him over Castillo. To me, Reagans and Castillo do stand out as the clear two top options. I know those are the two most popular options as well, but I will be more over the field on Reagans, even though he's chalk than any other pitcher. Pretty frankly uncomfortable with most of the cheaper options, so I'm trying to pay up as much as I can. What about you, JT? Your most important pitcher on this slate?
Yeah, man,
It's tough.
it's tough here because everything says you should just play Reagans and Castillo and move along. And I think those two guys I'm going to have good exposure to. But I do think, and this is crazy, but I do think that I'm going to get a little bit over the field here on Alex Wood at 5,500. Help me fit in the Dodgers, the Mets, maybe the Dodgers and the Cubs, and just hope that he can do even close to what Daniel Lynch IV did yesterday against our guy VIP's Rangers. Just think it's a little too cheap of a price tag. I don't love it. It doesn't feel good, but he's going to be important to some of my lineups tonight.
Godspeed on your Alex Wood.
He's a pitcher I hate too, DC. I used to hate because when he was chalk, I wouldn't play him because I would think this guy, his mechanics, everything is terrible. And then when I did play him, he would get lit up like the 4th of July. So what can you do?
Just one of those slates. It really is. All right. Let's get a home run call. I'll go first. I'll do my best not to take yours. I will go with Cardinals catcher Ivan Herrera down in the 6 hole. He's 3,200. I think most people are going to try to get Wilson Contreras, who I do also like, but I do like that righty power against Sean Manaea. Pretty good hitting conditions in Busch Stadium tonight. So Ivan Herrera, my home run call of the day. What about you, JT? Home run call for the people.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I like the way this kid has swung the bat. He's getting an opportunity here, and I think it's a good matchup. So I'm going to go with DJ Stewart. DJ Stewart for the New York Mets. Think he gets it done for us here tonight.
Yeah, those Mets lefties look pretty good against Kyle Gibson. They were on my short list as well. Overall favorite hitter on the day. He's expensive, but I'll be doing my best to get my man, Mr. Ohtani, in there. I do think he is the best hitter on the slate. Can play him at first base or outfield. Absolutely locked in right now. Matchup couldn't get much better. And I think he continues his absolutely torrid pace that he's been on to start the year. Ohtani, my favorite overall hitter. Tough to fit in. I do think it's worth playing some cheaper hitters to get him in there. Your favorite hitter on this slate, JT?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Ohtani, right? I mean, he's heating up, and I think you're going to be able to run a lot on these Marlins too. I mean, the catchers don't scare you. It's been a while since we've seen Freddie Freeman hit a home run. At least it's been a while since I've seen him hit a home run. So I like the match for Freddie Freeman tonight. So I'll stay with you in the Dodgers lineup and go with Freddie Freeman to be an important piece of my lineups tonight.
All right. Ohtani, Freeman hitting back-to-back there. Hopefully doing some damage for the Dodgers. That'll do it for this show. That's all 6 games, stacks, pitchers, home run calls, favorite plays of the day. A nice phallic roast. We'll pick the winner in chat. We'll go through and kind of go through those submissions. We'll get the winner announced in the live show chat. We appreciate all you guys watching. As always, kind of a shorter and honestly not the best slate in the world, but we appreciate you guys joining us. Anyway, the show will be back same time, same place tomorrow. Much better show, or much maybe a better show. Much better slate is what I meant to say, JT. No slate on Mr. JT. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm sure many of you guys will join us. We do appreciate that as always. We're getting out of here. Go Wolves tonight for JT. I am DC, and we're out of here.